Good morning, everybody. This is Mike from the Last Corvette. Today is Friday, so happy Friday. It is March 24th. It is, 34 outside here in Metro Detroit. We're fixing to get some rain. It's actually been pretty mild, pretty nice. When I say mild, obviously in the high 40s, touching 50s, but, you know, it's still that roller coaster, you know, until we get into, honestly, mid-April. And quick little note. So when I went to Mexico, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or so, maybe about a month ago, I forget now. I made it just a deal with myself, and I said, you know what? I've been so busy with work and family and all that. Obviously, that comes first. That I never really had time to work on the C6 over the winter. And normally that's what we do here in the northern states. We work on the vehicles during the winter. That way we can schedule our dynos and, you know, be on the road. So I said, you know what, I'll wait till April. Weather is going to be a little bit better, obviously, a little warmer. That way on the weekends I can have the garage door open, better lighting and stuff like that. Lessons were learned last year when I worked on my fuel system. So I upgraded my fuel pump to a C6 fuel pump. I also installed ethanol, a bunch of other performance parts. But at the end of the day, it took me a long time, which is fine. It's not like I'm using the vehicle. But it was also cold, right? So I, you know, have heaters and all that stuff, and, you know, it's fine. But laying on the garage floor, which when I did my fuel system, you know, 75% of everything that you do is, unless you have a hoist, which I don't, is you're laying on the ground. So that wasn't ideal. And even though heads and cams, 75% you do from the top, I said, you know, I just don't want to freeze my butt and work on it. You know, as I'm getting older, man, I'm starting to kind of, I don't know, resemble my father, I guess. So anyway, so come April, I'm going to start on the heads and cam. And then I kind of said if late May, even early June, if I can get on the dyno, depending on the schedule, I'll be happy with that. The key is to do it right. And of course, I'll post all the videos on this channel. I'll set up a GoPro with a tripod this time to actually show you guys everything from A to Z, because there's a lot of comments on various videos like, well, how come you don't show this or that? Well, it's because it's me, and most of the time you gotta use both hands, so I have to like kind of cut in and out in my amateur ways. But anyway, speaking of the fuel system, right, I've made a bunch of videos over the last couple of years now explaining mainly comments that people leave on my YouTube page or certain videos, right? And the thing is, the latest one is a typical C6 issue, which could be a couple of things, and I'm going to explain it again. And with this explanation, I also have a open line either through comments on YouTube or even email or even another video to kind of pinpoint and hopefully troubleshoot this issue. So this individual reached out to me, left a comment. They bought I want to say it's a 2008 C6 Corvette. I'm assuming it's based, I don't know, maybe a 06, I don't know. But it was a local market. I forget now if it was Facebook or Craigslist, but regardless, the transaction was made not through a dealer. It was, I assume, it was person to person. It was basically a private transaction. So as this individual started driving this C6, they noticed a fuel smell or fuel odor, I'm assuming in the cabin or even outside the vehicle. Also, there's some bucking or surging going on, which could be fuel related. It could be something else. But at the end of the day, let me just start slow and kind of walk not just this individual, but everybody else through a troubleshoot before you start freaking out or taking the vehicle to the shop, because that stuff gets expensive. And like I said in my previous videos, if you have the time, if you have simplistic tools, you can do this project yourself and save a lot of money. As I said before, I spent over $500. That's just parts, and of course the fuel pump module was the most expensive thing. It was like $300, and I actually got it for cheaper than the list price. I think the list price through GMOutletparts.com, which is the best website, again, I'm going to tell you this, is about $370, I believe, without the float switch. But anyway, first thing you want to do is this. First thing is first, go to O'Reilly's, get yourself a fuel pressure gauge. They rent them, you can buy them. Anyway, you pay for it up front, you use it, you bring it back, you get your money back right away. Okay, they debit your credit card or debit card right away. That's awesome. So first thing what I would do is on a cold start, I would hook up the fuel pressure gauge right to the Schrader valve, which the Schrader valve is on the driver's side, driver's side fuel rail. You hook it up, make sure everything is nice and tight, reset it to 0, start the vehicle. Check what the PSI is. So you're basically checking your fuel pump output, okay? And you're also checking everything else within that fuel system, making sure that all the connections are nice and tight. Now, if you have bucking or surging, right, you can check that as well. You don't have to be under load. And what I would do is just give it a little bit of gas, see if the fuel pressure fluctuates. If it fluctuates more than 10 PSI, you definitely have a problem with fuel delivery, which could be, air in the fuel, a small leak somewhere, or the fuel pump itself going bad. And like I said before, if it is the fuel pump, even if it's just the fuel pump, just buy yourself a complete fuel pump module, meaning that it has the bucket, it has the fuel pump in it. Go GM AC Delco. Of course, you can go to a high performance fuel pump or something like that, but at the end of the day, if you're not going to be pushing crazy horsepower, you're fine. And even if you are, you can always put a booster pump on it and you'll be just fine. So anyway, so that's the first thing. And you can report out what you see at idle, and then also what you see at, let's say 3,000, 4,000 RPM. Just hold it there for a couple of seconds. You're not gonna hurt the engine, trust me. So now, number 2, when you have fuel leaks or fuel odor, first thing you want to do before you start taking anything apart is get the vehicle up in the air. So either a lift, you can jack up the rear driver's side of the vehicle, obviously block it, or put a jack stand under it, climb under it, or you can even use car ramps. On C6s, unless you have like a aftermarket low rear diffuser, you can actually drive the C6 right on top of the car ramps, or actually I should say back the C6 right on top of the car ramps, and it will give you all kinds of room. Climb in there with a flashlight. First start with the crossover pipe, look for visual, either grime or dirt buildup, which will tell you something is leaking, or actual visual leaks. Then move on to the tanks. You'll see the tanks, you'll see both of the tanks, driver's side, passenger side, with the crossover pipe connected to it. Look for obvious damage, not only to the tanks, crossover pipe, and the evap lines. You'll see there's evap lines running between the 2 tanks. There's also a purge valve there as well, that if something breaks, it could release into the atmosphere, especially if you have a broken line. But that's pretty rare on these C6s, and if you had an evap system, most of the time, even the gas cap, that's a lot of people confuse it. They buy a cheap gas cap, try to solve this fuel odor. You'll get some kind of a code. And speaking of codes, another free thing you can do is go to O'Reilly's, AutoZone, whatever, and have your vehicle scanned. Scan your vehicle. Of course, you're not going to get all the parameters like you would at a shop, or like what I have in my vehicle through Dash Logic, or my standalone gauge that I have. It shows you all these important parameters. But it will give you at least a clean bill of health when it comes to the vehicle itself. People do weird things when they sell vehicles, or if there's a problem with a vehicle when they sell it, they try to bypass things, sometimes even disable check engine lights. That can be done. But anyway, last thing that you need to concentrate on are the fuel tanks. And once again, when you're under the vehicle, take a flashlight, look for obvious leaks, buildups. Now, if you don't see anything on from the underside of the vehicle, climb out and look at the driver's side rear tire. Right in front of it, you'll see the cradle that holds up the driver's side fuel tank. And the driver's side fuel tank contains the fuel pump module, which is known to crack from 05 to about 2010. They had issues until they revved up. The Z06s and ZR1s were the first ones to get revved up to a much better fuel pump module. But at the end of the day, if you do have a leak, same thing on the bottom of the driver's side tank. If you see sludge buildup, grime buildup, or visual leaks, like I said, you'll be able to pinpoint the problem. Another giveaway is if you smell around your, we'll say, fill cap, right, the refuel door. If you smell strong fuel odor, that's where basically the top of the fuel tank is, right behind the inner structure and obviously the outer skin. that's another dead giveaway there as well. But like I said, just start with the basics, and report back. I'll either make another video and kind of use my C6 in the garage as a I don't know, as a demo to show you where all this stuff is. But you know, fuel pressure, visual leaks, just all visual. Look for signs. If you don't see any signs, it still could be the fuel pump. That's why I'm kind of referring back to the fuel pressure gauge itself. It could be evap, but regardless, that's the problem with C6s. Evaps, same thing. You have to drop tanks. You have to remove things out of the way to actually achieve a proper troubleshoot and repair at that time once everything is dropped. So anyway, report back. I'll comment below, and we'll go from there. Talk to you guys later.